Hello and welcome to the Crit to Block podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Mailot
and Richard Lavery,
here to bring you in-depth conversation about competitive list building for Star Wars Legion. Today, we will be focusing our conversation on the Clone Trooper Infantry unit, so we have brought in one of our other members, lovingly known throughout the community as Kentucky Dan.
Dan is one of our more dedicated clone players over here at Crit to Block, having brought them to multiple tournaments and placing in the top 8 at several conventions already this year. Dan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to anyone who might not know you?
Hey, I'm Kentucky Dan. I play Republic and I play Shadow Collective. I've been playing since 2020.
Really? Only 2020?
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. I did not realize you would.
Yeah, I got into it.
First tournament game against each other in 2019.
No, 2021.
Wow,
it's weird that you both have a date in mind for that. I couldn't tell you when I played.
I just thought it was pre-COVID that we played.
No, I specifically remember it was the second Legion term I ever went to, and we were all super hyped to go. And then Richard just kicked my teeth in. It was so brutal.
Perfect. Well,
with ISF too, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to you.
We're here for the Clone Trooper Infantry unit. Currently, Republic's only in-faction core option. So it's required to take in every Republic list outside of Wookiees. So we're just going to walk through different build options, what situations you'd use them in, and just overall efficiency of choices. You guys, I think, have kind of differing opinions on how to build clones usually, and so I thought it'd be good to get you both in here, share your wisdom. So let's start things off with Dan. How do you like to build your Clone Trooper Infantry?
Well, I think probably the first thing you need to address is a lot of people say like, oh, they're core. You have to bring core. So, you put 3 core in and then you move on to what you want. And if that's what you're doing, you've missed the point. You got to make sure that you know why your core are there. And if you don't want core in your list, maybe you should be playing 501st and you only have to take 1. But, I kind of like to think of core taking like 3 different roles. Maybe your core are there to be support. Perhaps they are here to help your heroes. You've got a medic in the squad. It's a really popular build right now, is just running a medic in a squad. Or maybe they're there to help a vehicle and they've got an engineer, or maybe they've got, portable scanners or electro binoculars, or maybe they're there just to help the rest of your clones. And so they don't have anything on them and they're just taking aims and dodges and then bringing their surge along. So you either bring them for support, or are you bringing them for offense? Are you bringing heavy weapons? If you are bringing a heavy weapon, are you bringing a unit leader with them? That's probably a good idea if you're running them for offense. And should you be double stuffing the squad? I mean, should you be paying the price of an entire other unit to bring 5 more bodies? Maybe you should. And then lastly, the way that I would say Richard's probably preferred way to play them is just objective players. Nothing on them. They're the cheapest unit you can get in the faction at 52 points. They're red saves. I mean, the math says by the time you shoot through a red save unit with a surge token, you probably have to make them roll for 10 defense dice. That's not nothing. And they're not contributing a whole lot else, but, objectives are how you win the game.
And I totally agree with that. Like Dan said, I do love the Clone Trooper Infantry as objective pieces. They are very difficult to get through, but really, I kind of approach the idea of Clone Trooper Infantry with kind of one of 3 ideas. I either like pieces that are going to help me assault a point, defend a point, or they're supporting the army, like you said. So in that mind, there's kind of these 3 different silos that I'm building, and each one I'm building a little bit different. We're kind of in a point with Legion as a whole, regardless of what faction you're playing, where things are a little bit more specialized than they used to be. A lot of the times in historical Legion, you'll see, 4 to 5 core all built the exact same way. They're doing the same thing, right? And that redundancy is really helpful. I've always been a huge advocate of redundancy. Today's Legion is seeing a little bit of a shift, and a lot of these lists we're seeing, especially within CIS specifically, are taking these what's called Highlander lists. The idea of like you have one unit that with one build, and then the next unit with a different build, so on and so forth. And a lot of the times those are different units entirely. I'm an advocate right now, I think, for building your Clone Trooper infantry in that same mindset of each one is tailored to a specific thing that you need them doing. The question then becomes, what are those things that they need to be doing, and how do you actually build them? Because Clone Trooper infantry is arguably the most unique unit in the game from the terms of upgrades you can put on them. There's 5 or 6 different heavy weapon options. There's another 5 or 6 leader options, and that doesn't even get into all of the generic options that you can put on them. There's a lot that you can do with it. So let's go ahead and take a look at some common builds that you can do with the Clone Trooper infantry and kind of what role that they would fit onto the battlefield. Up first,
Yeah, let's see it.
You want
Teach
me to
me
share?
all about
Clones, guys.
We can do that.
You can still
Rebels,
pick-
I
you
have
can still
different
switch
units
factions.
that do different things, and so you
Mhm.
guys have to do different things with one unit. So
Okay, I'll go ahead. I'll share a screen just so we can pull up a list builder. So let's just start at the top and work our way down about what these different units, really can do. So up first is just a generic trooper with a Z6. For 78 points, you're throwing 4 black, 6 white at range 3. You've got that surge token because a reliable 1. Dan, what are your thoughts on the generic Z6? Let's just kind of bounce back and forth, and Eric, interrupt with any questions or thoughts about how it could be better.
So I definitely see this build as more of a home point defender build. You can absolutely contribute to the fight taking place elsewhere, but you're not pushing forward to really throw dice. You might even be doing a little bit of corner peeking, or maybe just exposing 1 or 2 models. We're kind of at that point in the game right now where if you shoot at range 3, if you aim shoot with a Z6, you're finding about as many hits as you would be if you were to move up into range 2 and shoot with the shotgun.
Mhm.
But the Z6, if you can't afford to move off the point, or if you've got somebody else who's going to go up and make that range 2 really hurt, the Z6 is an excellent build. And it also is, it's a slot machine. It has the opportunity and the chance to find a ton of crits. The math says it finds 1.5 hits as it is. So it can turn up and find a ton of damage when you need it to.
No, I
whereas
totally
I
agree.
prefer, it can also whiff completely, and I love playing against those kind of shots.
It can, but white dice
This
are a
is
slot machine,
Republic.
right?
We'll have aims from somewhere, Eric. We'll have aims from somewhere.
Things are everywhere. The other thing with the Z6 too, right? When you're throwing 6 white dice, the odds of you getting a crit aren't bad. It's 0.75 crits in the dice pool just from the 6 white dice. So it's not a bad target into a heavy cover, low profile, or armor, something of that nature. There's always a chance to spike. We play a dice game, so there are some times when you throw a Z6 shot and it's three crits, and that's wonderful. But going back, Dan, I think you made a really great point of this is a wonderful objective unit. It sits there. It can contribute. I'm thinking of bunker assault. I'm thinking of recover the research. Maybe even a shifting priorities. You can move and still shoot, or shoot, move, whatever order you need it to do it in. It's really, I would call the Z6 almost your all-rounder. It can participate in a bunch of different ways.
It never truly shines, but it never flubs either. I mean, obviously, clearly it can flub at 6 white dice. But, if you're playing shifting and your point moves away and you have to chase and suddenly you're outside of range 2, you're still contributing with that heavy weapon, whereas with a shotgun, you may be, up a creek and shooting just the regular DC-15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think from my experience playing against clones and not being a clone player, the Z6 squad is more survivable just purely because it doesn't seem like as much of a threat. If there are shotguns on the board or there's arcs, like everything else is going to take my attention first probably. And so the Z6 is probably going to be, it's sitting in the back shooting me, but I have other problems. So Yeah, kind of just goes with what you guys are saying.
Now, Dan, is a Z6 a squad that you would consider putting any other upgrades, like a squad leader upgrade on? Like, is this where you would put a captain, or would you just leave it purely with a Z6?
I have run it with a captain a lot. I do think, though, I'm perhaps moving away from that build personally.
Okay.
Just because I think there are better. If you can build your list aggressively enough, I think you have a real chance to better utilize those points. But I think it's just fine running it with a captain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if you can keep the captain kind of in the backfield alongside a clone commander.
Sure.
You know, the clone commander doesn't want to be in range 2.
No.
And neither does this unit. And so if they're both there at range 3, you know, holding down that home bunker, it's a solid build.
Mm-hmm. How many would you consider taking in a army? My sweet spot's 2 Z6s is a good place to be. I don't think I would take more, but I'm pretty happy with that 2 number.
Yeah, I would say 2. And even in the builds where you run like 6 core,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you run more than 2 simply because the other core, by the time you've got that many core on the table, you can afford to put some shotguns in and get them up front.
Okay. I mean, that seems like a great segment into the next unit. Also rolling in at 78 points, clone unit with just a shotgun. 2 red, 4 black, Pierce 1, most effective at range 2 for that shotgun. An assault piece, I think we would all agree. That's one of those pushing the enemy points, trying to get in there and make the most of that shotgun. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure that there's really a ton to say about the shotgun that everybody doesn't already know, because I'm sure we've all seen it. But I would say there are some benefits to it that you may not see at first glance. The first being that it is a range 2 weapon, meaning that if I push up to shoot at a Han Solo or a Din Djarin or whoever it is, I'm at range 2 in order to make that shot. I'm already shutting down backup.
Which is huge.
A lot of times you don't think about that until you go to shoot, and then it's like, oh, no, you're not getting backup because I have a shotgun, because I came up here to do this. So it's really helpful for killing things. I mean, Pierce is Pierce.
Plus the Pierce. Yeah.
Pierce is very good. But now, you know, the other thing that needs to be mentioned is one of the biggest benefits of the shotgun, and we're about to roll into a more extensive conversation about this, is the shotgun's melee to range 2. So if your clones get bogged down by something in melee, anything from your Wookiees to Ewoks to Vader himself, right? You're still getting those 2 red dice in melee, which is a big deal.
Yeah, it's a bit less of a deal if you're getting charged by, say, Magna Guards or
something with immune Pierce.
Shoot, I was about to say IRG, but something else with immune melee Pierce.
I would like to point out that even our deceased IRG were not immune Pierce melee natively. You needed an upgrade for that.
Touche. Then if you're charging, you know, if you're in melee with arcs or BX droids or something with impervious, still Pierce is better than no Pierce, even if they're rolling extra dice.
Absolutely. So then let's get into the debate, right? So we talked about what kind of squad commander upgrade you put on this. I think this heavy weapon has the greatest argument for adding a squad leader to it in either 5s or Ahsoka. Both are incredible. They both give charge to the unit. 5s adds 2 health and an additional 3 black dice. And coordinate, so if he gets an order, which you should be looking to do with maybe generic clone commander or something of that nature, your command card, he can bounce an additional order to one of your other clone units. Doesn't have to be core, could be an ARC trooper or something of that nature. But Ahsoka has independent dodge, throws 2 black, 2 white, critical 1 in melee with Pierce 1, of course. So Ahsoka with a shotgun gets up to 2 red, 6 black, and 2 white with Pierce 2, impact 2, critical 1. Both are significant. The 5s in shotgun is 118 points. The Ahsoka with shotgun is 113. Which one are you looking to run if you're looking to run one of those, Dan, and why?
Well, I think it might be a bit of a hot take at this point, but I still think I'm all about the 5s unit.
Okay.
Ahsoka is great. We'll get back to Ahsoka in a second, but the reason I love 5s is simply the ability to not have to get to melee. Yes, 5s has charge. Charge is a great keyword. Melee is better than shooting because you ignore cover. But that being said, the ability to shoot at range 2 is really big. It feels a little bad with an Ahsoka squad to not get to melee and to have to shoot and for her not to contribute anything. So I always go for 5s first. Primarily the coordinate keyword. I've got it bad for order control. I need order control in my army. So it's hard for me to build a list without 5s in it. So that's where I go first. And if I would make a suggestion, I would like to throw environmental gear on 5s. I don't make it a mandatory, but if you've ever got the points floating around, 2 more points to make sure that charge can get there, it's really big. It's really big, especially with terrain being the way it is right now. Everybody's really big on area terrain, and so very often folks will want to make their area terrain difficult. And if they say that, be like, by all means, sir, I have E-gear. Let's make it difficult.
So what's keeping you away from the Ahsoka build then? Like, why not do that? Because especially with let's throw out another option here. Ahsoka with impact grenades gives you impact 6, critical 1, pierce 2. That's arguably the best anti-armor stat block in the game.
There's nothing, I would say, keeping me away from the Ahsoka build. I would just say that I would bring 5s in my armory first.
Okay.
That might be a place in which you and I differ, mainly because I've just got it bad for order control. But Ahsoka is an incredible upgrade. Giving that independent dodge in a clone army is so big.
And she has block, right?
Yeah.
She
has
block. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good.
I love it when you tell your opponents that. They're just like, yes.
It does catch them by surprise sometimes.
Yeah. That being said, bringing Ahsoka in a core squad and 5s in a core squad is not always the right answer. Simply because if you're bringing 5s, you are actively getting, I assume if you're bringing 5s, you're using the coordinate keyword. If not, you're overpaying. So if you're bringing 5s, you're giving him an order, and then he's giving an order to somebody else. Possibly another core, probably to a shotgun. Not shotgun, a captain. So if you're bringing Ahsoka in a core and you're bringing 5s in a core, well, you're kind of pushing your chances of pulling a core token ever smaller. And Ahsoka's independent. So unless you're running like a 6-core kind of build, which I think is actually rather viable now, because you got so many spicy core builds these days, you just got to be careful bringing both of them. But yeah, Ahsoka with a shotgun and melee is just, it's silly. It's been said before, but if it's just her and the unit leader, you've got Obi-Wan's lightsaber, pierce 2, double rainbow, critical 1.
It's very strong. The flip side of that conversation, though, is, the 5 squad that we built with that environmental gear, 120 points. You're looking at, what, 12% of your army just on one unit? That's significant for a core. Does that make your bigger squads, like the 5s and shotgun, Ahsoka shotgun, a priority target for your opponent to eliminate? Is there a negative detraction from that? Eric, you play against clones, you don't play with clones. Do you highlight that unit to take out as a priority target?
Yeah, with the charge and the other keywords that both Ahsoka and 5s give, it puts them in the same category as arcs for me, where I know that should be my first priority. And even if I target something in clones, it might not die, so it's fine. That's been my experience sometimes. It's I can try really hard to kill that thing, but sometimes they just don't die, which again is why they're so strong. It's a very good unit. It's a very good faction.
I think I'll piggyback off of Richard's question to roll into the next build, which is the Clone Trooper Infantry squad for 56 points. If you've got a 5s or an Ahsoka build with a shotgun, it's no secret that's a priority target. What if you double stuff that squad? What if you threw an additional 5 bodies in there? I've taken a double stuffed 5 squad with a shotgun to 3 different tournaments. At this point, I think I have 11 tournament games in with them. And this isn't really a flex to say I've never lost that unit in a tournament. Nobody has the time to kill it.
I think that's the definition of a flex, Stan.
No, that's not really. I don't know if that's really a flex.
I'm pretty sure that's a flex.
The point is that you simply don't have the time to kill it.
Yeah.
Also, I would like to point out that I killed them in Richmond.
Okay, but you didn't kill mine, so.
Yes, I did. 5s was your second unit I eliminated.
He wasn't double stuffed.
He wasn't double stuffed. Never mind. I'm just trying to flex back on Dan. Gotta humble him.
And in the games where they would try and kill him, like I did have a tournament game where 5s was down to a single health.
Wow.
But at that point, my opponent basically had nothing left to go. Because that's a 12 health unit on red saves. They're going to have surge support. So you're going to make them roll 28 defense dice before you can kill that squad?
On average, yeah.
That's a lot of work to be done for a unit that, it's 176 points.
Yeah.
That is nearly a fifth of my army. But if you want to kill them, by all means. If you don't kill them, they're going to be more powerful than if you had shot at them. But if you do shoot at them, it's a real catch-22 there.
Because the reality, too, is you're rolling, with a shotgun and the double stuff, it's 2 red, 12 black. So even if you assume, let's say, no surge support, no aim support, those 12 dice are usually finding 6 hits. And, we'll say the aim and surge support, the 2 red hit as well. So you're finding 8 Pierce 1. That's significant. We're talking numbers that can one-shot squads.
Yeah, I mean, if they roll cover, they're probably pulling 2 off of there.
Yep.
And then you're looking at 6 Pierce 1.
Into a white save.
Into a white save, you probably pick the unit up.
Yeah.
You can probably pick up a naked clone core. Like another Clone Trooper Infantry with nothing on it.
Into most red save that neuters them, though.
Yeah, exactly. You could take a Stormtrooper heavy weapon team down to just a unit leader.
Yeah, that's impressive. So when you're using that double stuffed unit with the shotgun and 5s and all that, are you using them as a distraction piece, a hammer, an anvil? Is it variable based on the game?
Well, at that price point, 176 points, I think you have to use them as a hammer. Now, don't get me wrong, you can use them as a distraction piece. I mean, if you put Bad Batch and a double stuffed 5s team on one side of the board, they can basically solo that side of the board. I'm not saying they will win it, but they can hold it down while the rest of your army does something else. I mean, they darn well better oughta. They're like 340, 350 points at that point. They better be able to do something on one side of the field.
Right.
So I'm using them, and this is kind of sad when you go to think about it, but at 176 points with 5s, shotgun, double stuffing, environmental gear, I'm rolling 12 black, 2 red. Why would I ever take a saber tank at that price point? They are such a Death Star of a shot, they are.
This isn't the saber tank episode, but the saber tank doesn't lose efficiency until its break value as it takes wounds. Whereas the clone squad, as you take wounds, you're losing dice from that offensive pool.
I am, but if you're shooting
Dan
at 5s,
if you just have 5s and the shotgun left, that's still a very good squad.
Still
That's
5
true.
dice.
Still 5 dice.
And if you want to shoot at that squad, you're not shooting at my arcs. You're not shooting at my commander, etc.
Okay, so you're arguing almost that the squad is pulling double duty. It's a distraction and a hammer. And if your opponent doesn't deal with it, it becomes a very significant issue as the game goes on.
Here's a fun mathematical tidbit. That 12 black, 2 red with 1 surge, Pierce 1, is expected mathematically to do 6 wounds in melee. Tenacious Anakin, 6 red, Pierce 3, surge to crit, finds 5.75 in melee. This is cheaper. Now, every wound you take just completely destroys that analogy I just made, but it's a fun thought experiment just to realize, like, oh, boy, howdy, they can hit like Anakin. They can't do it twice per round, and they, but
Doesn't
the
have
argument breaks
commander.
down. But for that brief moment, if your opponent ignores them entirely,
they can hit hard.
They're going to regret it.
And that's one of the things, we've designed this cast to really focus on trying to show newer players and players who are looking to up their skill level different ways to think about the game, right? Like, we always say that we play a dice game, but what do we mean when we say we play a dice game? There's odds, there's probability built into the game. The ability to do that math semi-quickly can help your decision making. And when you have time, when you're building a list and you work through thought experiments like what Dan just shared, that really shows you, okay, what are the different viability points of units? And you can do this for any unit in the game to figure out what their statistical hits are and expected wounds. And that lets you build and have that game plan going into any of these games. Speaking of utility pieces, though, let's talk about one of the options that I think you take one or two of these in almost every list. Just an absolutely naked Clone Trooper Infantry squad. You're generating a surge token every turn. And on top of that, you're also, aim dodging or move dodge if you need to spread the bubble, move aim. You have a lot of options. You're basically just a token battery.
Richard, are you telling me that I should take the core that I'm required to take?
Yes, at the bare minimum, you should.
The bare minimum, yeah. I think right now a clone infantry with nothing on it is very valuable due to the fact that they bring you that reliable one.
Mm-hmm.
And we no longer have access to aggressive tactics. And any squad you take with a heavy weapon will want to use their own surge token.
Yes.
So being able to bring a squad who says, look, this surge token is for whoever wants it. It's all yours. Come and take it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good. Coincidentally, that's why you need to be bringing clone commanders right now, because you have bolster. That's a discussion for something else. But if you're bringing a Z6 unit, man, you're going to find those surges and you're going to want to spend it. It's going to be so tempting. You're going to be sitting there being like, well, if I do one more, then I probably find one more past cover. Or, if I can find one more, this will be that third hit that gets past that armor 2 on those aquas. But if you bring no heavy weapon, you just bring a naked unit, you can say, you know what? It's the cheapest unit I can bring. And basically, everybody in my army can use my tokens.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing that I like to emphasize here is I play a lot of games against the crit to block people, any clone players in crit to block, and you guys are all very good clone players. There is a skill involved in putting those units in the right place, because not everyone has that skill. It's something that needs to be practiced, and so that unit can be very valuable, but you have to put them in the right place to be valuable. And that's something that we can't really coach on a list building podcast, but it is something that clone players who want to up their game should be cognizant of.
I mean, it's a really good timing neutral activation as well. A lot of the times in my most recent list that I brought to you, Rocky Top and Richmond Open, I've got a unit in there. It's the first thing on the board every time. It moves and takes a dodge. And it's a great way to just stall the other things you have that are coming out, either on turn 1 or turn 2, where the lines haven't quite clashed yet, depending on how you're playing or who you're playing. It really gives you that opportunity. And some of the objectives, I'm thinking of shifting priorities, I'm thinking of recover the research, really want one unit kind of on those far outside points away from the rest of the fight. You don't want to dedicate a unit with a heavy weapon to that. And so Clone Trooper Infantry with a surge every turn are rather difficult to remove still. Like, you have to dedicate an actual shot into them. You're not just going to pick them up as an accidental. And so if you're having them hold down a shifting point that's moving to a corner of the board, or you're having them hold one of your back safe is, relative, recover the research points, they're contributing to the game in more ways than one, because again, they're your timing neutral. You might be sharing their tokens, but they're scoring you VPs, which is arguably the most important thing for any unit to be doing in a game.
Yeah, and to loop back real quick, if you double stuff that unit and you increase their courage through Indomitable, it makes their ability to score VPs even stronger. Now, I'm not arguing you send a double stuff unit to the side of the board, but you're already, any clone unit is already at courage 2. So it takes a lot to stop them from capturing those side points. It takes Pierce is what it takes. And maybe your opponent has a couple of strike teams and your unit just gets picked off because it's just a bad matchup. But maybe they got 4 or 5 units of B1s. Like, you can weather those shots for probably 2 rounds before they're going to kill you. And in that point, well, they've probably invested more points than you have to win that fight, and you can make it up elsewhere.
Absolutely. Let's jump over to kind of the less used heavy weapon upgrades right now. So when I talk about less used, you don't see them in a lot of competitive lists. That's the mortar, that's Echo, that's the RPS. And let's touch on Echo real quick. So 52 points, a hefty price point. I don't know if I've ever seen him used in a Clone Trooper Infantry squad. And I personally think his best use is in ARF Troopers right now. Maybe as a strike team for ARC Troopers, but that, do you think there's any value in the Clone Trooper Infantry squad for Echo?
I think it is exceedingly small, probably a mistake at this point. For 52 points, you are paying the price of the good heavy weapon, which is 22 points, and you're also paying the price point of the Clone Commander squad leader upgrade, which is 30 points. You're paying the price for the 2 of those combined. You'll have the same amount of wounds, a little less attack dice. You go from Pierce to Lethal. You go from Inspire 1, Reliable 1 to just Reliable 1. And he's a sniper at range 5, and the things that every sniper needs is aim support, sharpshooter, and Pierce. He doesn't bring any of those natively. Now, yes, he has critical 1. Critical 1 is basically the value of another attack die in a large dice pool, but in a small dice pool, it's not. I don't think you take Echo in a clone core. I really don't think you can justify it. I think there's a place for it in ARCs, but that's not what this conversation's about.
No, I'd agree with that. The other 2 options are situational, but I'm wondering if the game is going to be moving into a position where they're going to be better. So let's talk about the RPS first real quick. Armor's everywhere these days. Clones, outside of that melee option that we discussed with Ahsoka and impact grenades, don't really have an impact outside of lightsabers to talk about. Maybe the tanks, the ISP with the rocket pods, or the saber tank, but again,
ATRTs.
ATRTs with laser cannon. Thank you. How did I forget that one?
Clone Commandos,
options, infantry options outside of a lightsaber wielder and Ahsoka. Well, again, a lightsaber wielder. All of those impact options are melee except for the RPS. 23 points, a rainbow, impact 2. It's perhaps not the most economic version of Clone Trooper Infantry, but I wonder, do you think that the meta is shifting into a position where you want more impact in your list, and we're going to be seeing RPS return to the table?
So I think, yes, I agree that there is more armor everywhere. But the caveat I would add is that armor is lesser armor. It is not armor 5. It is armor 2. It is armor 3. And what that means is that if you try, you can punch through it. If you get your shotgun squad to range 2, it's okay to assume that both of those reds are going to hit. And that means both of those reds are going to get through the armor of the Aqua, and then whatever other dice you're rolling with that unit will be what damage will stick, especially because you have the Pierce there. It gets a little worse when you're looking at crabs or ISPs or stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the big downside of the RPS is that cumbersome keyword. I think there's an intriguing possibility where maybe you get stuck on shifting, and you're in a situation where you can fire your rocket launcher and then move to go cap that point, and you can do that a couple rounds. I've also seen, all right, I'll bring my lat in and I'll drop off my Clone Trooper Infantry and then I'll activate and shoot my rocket launcher right out the gate. Cool. But that rainbow with Impact 2, again, I'm not trying to say that Impact is non-existent, but you're expecting the same amount of hits as the shotgun, but you don't have Pierce. And unless we see Armor 5 everywhere, I think you save that point and you bring the shotgun instead. When I was building my list for Richmond, I had like this 1 point left over. And I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to figure out if an RPS could work for me. And I played like 3 games, and I had a little marker next to one of my shotguns, and I counted how many rounds over which I could use the rocket launcher. And the sad part was I was finding maybe 2 rounds per game I could use the rocket launcher. But I could use the shotgun 3, maybe 4 rounds per game.
Mm-hmm.
And until that cumbersome keyword gets a little bit of love, I'm struggling to get value out of them right now.
Is there a world in which they move up, either double move turn 1, or you throw boil on them or something and you scout move or something of that nature, and then sit on a POI like your bunker assault, your recover the research, and just generate a token and shoot every single turn from then on out?
Yeah, there's definitely that possibility. If you're on a POI, though, most of the POIs are within range 3. This sounds bad to keep saying it, but maybe you could get yourself into shotgun range. There's also a fun build with them.
But if it's a defender of the POI, just like our Z6, you're looking to be shooting at that range 3 man, which the RPS fits really well into.
And there's also a fun build that I've run a bit of, which is putting the technician, the comms technician, onto a squad.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking.
Both the comms technician and the mortar, they both have cumbersome. They both got great dice pulls if you can get them to proc. I mean, the suppressive and cumbersome 1 on the mortar, and then Impact 2 and a rainbow here. If you can get them in order, get them that standby, give them Overwatch. Heck, while you're at it, give them the captain, so you're getting a dodge and you're getting a standby and you're getting an Overwatch and you got a surge token. It's really fun. The only problem is that you have to be placing yourself in situations where you are the least of your opponent's problems, and that they will choose to not shoot you on their first activation.
Mm-hmm.
That requires you to be playing. Overwatch. That requires you to be like looking into the matrix, and it sometimes requires your opponent to have their eyes closed. So if both of you can see the matrix code, it doesn't work. But it is a fun. It's a fun thought experiment, and sometimes, it could be like, oh, well, darn, I guess the first thing I'm going to do this turn is activate my B1s and blink a standby token. It's like, cool, I knew you were going to do that. So then here comes double stuffed 5s, and I'm going to pick up, half a unit of Aquas.
I was going to say, like if
that.
They're spending their first action in a turn to take off a standby, I think that's a win for the clone player. Like that way you don't have to necessarily win turn priority. Like
it is a win with the caveat that it is a 30-point upgrade that you're probably putting Overwatch on for an additional 4 points. So it's a win in the fact that it's a 34-point upgrade on top of your heavy weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if it's the rocket launcher, it is the most expensive heavy weapon.
Yeah, it at least creates kind of like an extra puzzle for your opponent, which I think, it's worth experimenting with. I think, whether or not you end up people end up trying it and liking it, but
110 points for that build is just a bit too spicy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you're getting into 120 for that 5s build, or 110 for the Clone Trooper with the mortar and comms tech Overwatch build.
Yeah, I mean,
One of those is probably
118 is just
taking.
5s and a shotgun. Like, it's also the price of Ahsoka shotgun and prepared supplies. Like that 118 is a real sweet spot.
Yeah, I think my best guess would be that this RPS or mortar trooper squad build like this, it would work if a lot of other things in your army were like melee or range 2. Like if all of your army's rushing forward, you want someone to be chilling back there. And I think if you've got Anakin and Ahsoka running up the board at you, yeah, you're not taking the time to shoot a standby off. Like you're dealing with the other problems. In my mind.
Yeah. So let's just touch real quick on some of the other options. I mean, is there any world you're seeing right now? I mean, the Clone Trooper Infantry extra body, I think I've seen a few places, 13 points for an extra dude. If you have some points left over, isn't a bad option. Clone Engineer, it's a combatant. You get to throw a die. Vehicles aren't really too out there in Republic right now, so that's maybe not the best use of your points.
I don't think Republic vehicles are begging for a 17-point upgrade in that way. I think RTs are so cheap you don't care about their wounds. Probably aren't running sabers. The LAT, if you want to shoot me, by all means, you're not shooting something else. And the ISP is typically too far back field to be shot at until that turn 3, turn 4 dive, in which points you really can't guarantee you'll be in range 1 with your engineer.
Right. Clone Specialist, I mean, a free token for 17 points, it's not bad.
Yeah. You can always do the classic, like pop my Specialist, take a recover action, then perform, your regular attack or move. It's not bad.
Kind of doubles up on tokens a little bit.
Yeah, well, it doubles down on your abilities to, you can recover.
That one's the
remove
aim
your
or
suppression.
dodge, right?
Aim, dodge, or surge, yes.
Surge,
okay. Yeah, that could be kind of nice walking up the board next to like a squad with Ahsoka in it. Just
if you can put it
give
in
her an
the
extra.
Ahsoka.
Oh yeah,
if you can put the
I
Specialist in an Ahsoka squad with a shotgun and drop that out of the LAT, it's real fun.
You absolutely
He also
can.
brings a second gear slot, so you can bring Ahsoka with a shotgun, with a Specialist, with prepared supplies, and with E-stims. There's a lot.
Yeah,
there's a lot
I
going
suppose
on
that's
there.
an option.
I suppose that's an option. She's got 2. She can, proc the block keyword twice in a round, 3 times in a round if you pop the Specialist during your activation. Independent, cash dodge, Specialist. The problem is,
Honestly,
high
I don't
velocity
hate
just
that.
melts you. So,
and all that's a little north of 130. It's like 135 with prepared supplies. It's not awful.
No, it's not awful.
What about the other slot? What about, let's talk, Boyle used to be a staple in Republic lists. Boyle dropped off. What happened to Boyle?
I think it's that the Clone Trooper keyword itself used to be range 2. And, sorry, my bad. Used to be range 1. Now it's range 2. When it was range 1, it was far easier to have Boyle in range because we all lined up and we shot each other. We don't line up and shoot each other anymore. Now we play a big game of chicken, and we all figure out where we're going to be. And if you play your chicken game wrong and you get Boyle in a wrong spot, he's not really offering a lot of value if he's out of place.
Right.
Technically there is value there because the extra body is 13 points and Scout 1 on Recon Intel cost 8 points. So technically you're getting an extra body and Recon Intel for a 1-point discount. But you know what costs the same price as Boyle? The medic. And that's
turns out healing your clone troopers gets a lot of value.
Yeah.
Because you can heal an
I do
arc,
think,
you can heal a saber.
As a side caveat, there's been a bit of weird over medic saturation in Republic. I'm not sure that's what we should be doing. ever since medics could be put on arcs, now I'm suddenly seeing like tons of medics on arcs and tons of medics on core all in the same list. And it's like, man, you got 8 medics in here. You know what you could do with that? You could bring another activation, like like a good activation.
Listen,
medics are
I
still
agree.
fine on core, but I don't think we should be bringing 5 medics in a list.
Yeah, there's a few. We saw one at Rocky Top. There was a, we call it zombie lists, where you have X amount of medics. I think it was 6 Clone Trooper medics in the list. I do agree at a certain point it's too many. I've never personally been a fan of medics. I know you and I have debated back and forth on that extensively. We'll definitely cover that in our Clone Trooper squad leader
Special.
upgrade.
Yeah.
Across all of the different clone squads that can take upgrades and where you want to take them. But that's a later episode. For now, are there any other points you want to touch on before we do a quick recap and send them
we
on their
have
way?
to talk about the captain. We have to talk about the
Tell
captain.
me about the captain.
Captain, I mean, ever since this new edition dropped, basically every list I start is 5s with a shotgun, clone commander with improv, and a captain squad with a Z6 or a shotgun. Meaning shotgun right now, but I've run Z6 on them so often. I mean, you get 2 core tokens out of your bag at the start of the gate. You got a dodge token on the board. He's 22 points, and he has defend 1, which means when you give him an order token, which is easy to do if you have 5s around, you're getting a dodge token on the board. Now, I like to look at it mathematically, if you will. A dodge token is 5 points via prepared supplies. The clone captain is 22 points. Now, you kind of need to ignore round 1 because you probably don't need more dodges on round 1. But if you can get him an order for 4 rounds, that is 20 points worth of value. And he's a 22-point model. That is on top of the fact that he's an extra body in a clone core, which is already 13 points. So he's really like, you're paying 22 points for 33 points worth of value.
Plus outmaneuver,
which almost never procs, but when it does, it feels really nice. But a clone captain, man, you can put like 2, to Richmond, I brought like 2 clone commanders, and they were directing to 2 captains, and I had Ahsoka on the board, and you'd have 3 dodges on the board at the start of each round. Plus, you can do something like super cancerous and play, leaders of the 501st, lead from the front, and put another 3 dodges, so you have like 6 dodges on the board at once, and just,
it's a lot of dodges.
Do a cackle or something like that.
It sounds like you want to play Rebels if you just want to poop out dodges all over the place.
No. I need to poop out dodges with red saves. That's the difference.
Amazing. So let's do this then. So you're building a list. What do you start with in terms of Clone Trooper Infantry? How many are you taking? Of what variety?
I do start most of my lists with shotgun 5s and clone captain Z6 or clone captain shotgun. Then the last core, I will build the rest of the list and come back to it.
Okay.
Unless it's 501st, in which case, hey, I'll just take 2 core.
Okay. So you're taking 2 core. You play a lot of 501st, so you're taking just those 2 core, and the third, if you're playing outside of 501st, you'll come back and build later.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll come back and figure it out. Outside of 501st, you're typically running, in the 501st, you're typically running a clone commander for one of your commanders. But if it's outside the 501st, you're probably not, because you are outside the 501st to bring something that you couldn't in there. In that case, I might take another 2 naked core just to get the surge tokens out that I'm lacking.
I'm starting pretty much every Republic list with 2 Z6 squads, a shotgun squad, and a naked squad, and then building from there. And that's been a really solid foundation, because that gives you 2 objective defenders, an objective assaulter, and a support unit, or
a floater. Yeah.
And a floater. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
if you need him up front, he's up front.
Exactly. And that has given a lot of value to the Republic list I've been playing lately.
Now, Richard, how often are you using your surge tokens on your Z6 squads for offense?
At
It's a great
minimum 50%, it's probably closer to 75.
Oh, wow. Okay. So I think
Yeah.
you and I probably do that in reverse order.
Yes. So, well, and that's one of the things, like, you are a very defensive clone player. I am a very offensive clone player. I've always been of the mindset that if your opponent doesn't have models, I don't need the defense because they can't shoot me. You know, whereas I believe your mindset is more, I want to deter them shooting me.
I've got 6 dodges. You can't touch this.
They shoot me and I take nothing. So, you know, we both get to the same place, but, you know, it's all about what you're willing to trade and give in order to get there.
Yeah, I think the closest I get to that is when I play Shadow Collective and bring my Black Suns that have Independent Surge with the what's his face, the leader guy, and so I am usually
nailed it. High quality podcasting right here.
Dan, I was hoping you would help me out. You also play Shadow Collective.
I usually. Are you talking about the extra body that you bring on the Black Sun core? So you have cash dodge, and then you also take prepared supplies. So you have 2 cash dodges on a red saving surge.
I'm talking about the Vigo.
Oh, the Vigo, right? Okay.
Yes, and he gives you Independent Surge. I play it more like Dan.
And I really like me some dodge tokens.
I usually just save that surge for defense to keep my Black Suns alive instead of surging on offense.
Correct. Correct.
Well, we've run a little over our anticipated time.
We have gone a little long.
Yeah, let's recap real quick and get on out of here. So the roles on the battlefield for your objective pushers, if you're looking for something to assault a point, you're building something with a shotgun most likely, either with 5s or Ahsoka are strong options. Double stuffed units also very strong. If you're trying to defend a point, a Z6 or a clone captain unit would be really good. If you have the points and want to experiment, a clone's comm tech with a mortar or an RPS is an interesting option. Your token batteries, again, that clone captain unit or a naked unit. Anything that's double stuffed, 5s or Ahsoka with a shotgun is a great distraction piece. So don't forget to kind of like, you know, tease your opponent with that. You know, make them really consider shooting that instead of your more pricey pieces on the board. And one of the things we didn't quite touch on, but secondary objective targets, so your recon missions, your surface scans, your marked targets are really great to put on some of those defensive squads. Like Dan was saying, you have to dedicate a lot to take out a double stuffed squad. That's a great marked target because your opponent's not going to do it more often than not.
Recon scanners. I mean,
recon scanners. Surface
I'm not going to drop mine. I can kill things really hard. If I've got charge, I'm probably way up board. There's a chance I can test your recon scanner.
Exactly. So lots of options there. If you have any questions, if you want any additional follow-up, feel free to reach out to us. You can either email us at critblock@gmail.com. Eric, I remembered it this time.
Way to go.
Shoot us a message on Discord. Tag us somewhere if you really want to. Or
just comment
we'll be happy
on YouTube. On podcast.
Comment on YouTube. Yeah, lots of different ways. So
yeah, we forgot to introduce ourselves, but if you're watching on YouTube, you know about our battle reports.
I would hope so. If not, go watch our battle reports. Dan, thank you for joining us. We'll be sure to have you back on for any future Republic and Shadow Collective episodes. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I'll just say not my favorite segment. I'm going to stick to the things we're into segment, but we were all at Rocky Top this past week, and so I'm just going to say that's the thing we were all into as we were playing at Rocky Top. And for what it's worth, Richard went 5-0, and Kentucky Dan was 4-1. I went 2-3 and learned that I need to play objectives a lot better. But the list we talked about last episode, I really like. I still think it's very good. I think all of my games were winnable, and so that was my takeaway is that I just need to be a better objective player.
My takeaway was that I really hate shifting positions. My gosh, what a horrible objective. Oh, yeah, whatever. I hate anything that moves. I just want to stand and shoot. I like defense. And also double stuff slinger squads.
Oh, yeah.
Stupid
Yeah,
cheap,
you and I both played against Matt, who went 4-1 with Bright Tree. And yeah, double stuff slingers did mean things to us both.
Yeah.
My Rocket Top takeaway is there's a lot of different lists out there that are all doing really well, and each of them look pretty unique. Go take a look at the top 8 from that event. I think Indy Garrison had a really good article out about it already. They're all very unique lists, so go take a look and don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah, right on. All right, thank y'all.
Thank y'all for watching.
Thank you.